So hello and welcome back to the National League Rugby preview show, round 7's edition, powered by Talking Rugby Union, where every Thursday we look ahead to the next set of fixtures in National 1 and National 2. And also we put our clubs in the spotlight so they get the chance and the opportunity to showcase what they are all about. So National League Rugby supporters and rugby union fans in general are collectively encouraged to visit their National League Rugby club on a Saturday afternoon. And we hope what we've done so far in the opening 6 weeks of the season, that people who may have viewed the show or seen what we've been doing on social media have been encouraged to take a trip to their local National 1 or National 2 club on a Saturday afternoon. And it also looks like, by the way, that our mini call to action last week to ask you guys to just hit the subscribe button to our YouTube channel has actually worked a little bit, because we have seen a little increase in the number of subscribers over the last 7 days or so. So if you are one of those people who've taken just a couple of seconds to hit the subscribe button, we do really appreciate it. Please continue to do that. Please continue to like our videos and share all the content which National League Rugby is producing, because as you guys will know by now, it does help to boost the profile of National 1 and National 2. And I thank you obviously to you guys, but also to Canterbury and Loughborough students, who were our featured clubs on the preview show in round 6. We had some really nice feedback, in particular on the interview with Canterbury that we did, which focused on their new academy initiative. So if you did miss that interview or wondering what on earth I'm going on about, the Canterbury interview is obviously included in the full show, round 6's full show, which is available on our YouTube channel, but it's also available in National 2 East's breakdown video, which is essentially the full preview show broken down into 4 smaller videos into National 1, National 2 North, National 2 East and National 2 West. And of course, Canterbury's feature will come in the National 2 East video, which is readily available on our YouTube channel. So do check that out if that is of interest to you. But enough about round 6 for now. Let's take a look ahead to round 7. And this week, our featured clubs come in National 2 East and National 2 North. Later on, we'll be checking in with Bury St Edmunds Director of Rugby, Jacob Ford, to chat about the club's start to the season. It really was a summer of change down in Suffolk, with about 23 or 24 new players arriving at the club. And also Bury have struck up a relationship with championship side Doncaster Knights, due to the relationship, of course, that Jacob Ford has with his brother Joe Ford, who is head coach at Doncaster. So it's really interesting to catch up with Jacob to see how he's managing all these different elements 6 weeks into the season as Bury look to build in National 2 East. And then we'll come on to our National 2 North featured club of the week, which is Sheffield, who have made a brilliant start to the campaign. 6 wins from 6 for Anthony Posa's side. They really have picked up from where they left off last year, where they achieved a club record high 3rd place finish. So what has been the secret to their rise? They finished 10th in 2022-23. They finished 3rd last year. So we put that question to head coach Anthony Posa, as well as first team captain and assistant coach Don Parsons, ahead of what is going to be a huge meeting for Sheffield against Leeds Tykes in round 7. So before we go into those feature interviews in National 2 East and National 2 North, let's begin, as we always do, with a look back at round 6 in National 1, where Esher opened their account for the season with a 31-21 victory over Darlington Moden Park. It was the first win of the season for Peter Winterbottom's side. It was far from pretty for the E's, but they will not mind that at all. They are off the mark, and they did so against a DMP side who is still yet to register a victory. Whether that will come in the final 2 weeks before the first break of the season at the start of November, we'll have to wait and see, but certainly a good round 6 for Esher. At the top of the table, some of Bristol Bears' emerging talent starred for Dean's Crusaders in the form of Diego Bailey and Sam Edwards, but it was 2 tries in the final 8 minutes for second place Richmond, which rescued a 31 draw for Rob Powell's side and maintained their unbeaten start to the season. So a real tough examination for Richmond in round 6, and it wasn't comfortable either for Rams, who travelled to league leaders Rams, who travelled to Bishop Stortford. Now, Rams boss Seb Reynolds said last week that his side were under no illusions about how tough the meeting with Bishop Stortford would be, and he was proved absolutely correct, because Rams managed to grind out a 10-6 victory at Silver Leeds to maintain their winning start to the season. It's 6 wins from 6 for Rams, but Stortford did deny Rams a bonus point, the first team to do that this season. So certainly plus points for Bishop Stortford, but Rams got out of there with the victory. And what it means for the table is Rams do remain top of the pile with those 6 wins from 6, as we talked about. Richmond, in second position, but Rotherham were the only side in the top 3 to pick up a maximum after their 34-17 win at Leicester Lions. Plymouth Albion, who had over 1,300 people in attendance at Brickfields last week for their 29-23 win over Blackie, they're up to 5th in the standings, whilst at the bottom, Esher are up and running after that victory over Darlington Moden Park. So let's take a look at the fixtures then for round 7. We mentioned Esher there. They'll be looking to build on that win over DMP when they travel to Blackheath on Saturday afternoon. Speaking of Darlington Moden Park, they take on Sale FC up in the northwest. Darlington Moden Park did actually do the double over Sale last season. How much would Gary Law's side like that record to be extended in round 7? Rams versus Birmingham Moseley should be a really interesting game in Berkshire, with the table toppers welcoming Moseley to Old Bath Road. Birmingham Moseley 4th in the table after what sounded like a pretty topsy-turvy 28-26 victory over Sedgley Park in round 6. If I'm right in saying they were 23-7 down at home at half-time, they suffered a red card in the second half, but dug deep to win that contest thanks to Ollie Stedman's try 7 minutes from time. So they'll be taking that confidence from that victory to Old Bath Road to face Rams to see if they can become the first side to defeat the early league leaders. Richmond, as we said, they are second behind Rams. They take on Leicester Lions this weekend. The hosts will be aiming to stay on the tails of the table toppers. Leicester Lions actually won this corresponding fixture last season thanks to a late penalty. So can they have the same outcome as they look for their second win of this current campaign? Rosslyn Park versus Dings, it's the next game up. I saw Rosslyn Park last weekend away at Sale FC. They shut out Sale FC to claim a 3rd straight win. They were clinical as well with Kieran Power's side. They were up to 6th in the table, and they host Dings Crusaders in round 7. Rotherham Titans versus Stortford. Rotherham coming into this one after coming from behind against Leicester Lions to continue their excellent start to the campaign. They welcome Bishop Stortford to Clifton Lane, as we mentioned when we discussed Rams before, Stortford really were plucky, really were stubborn against Rams last time out. So Tom Coleman's side will take massive plus points into this weekend's meeting with Rotherham Titans. And to round things off, Sedgley Park are back at Park Lane, and they take on an informed Plymouth Albion. So like last week, let's begin National 2 by starting with National 2 East, considering one of our feature clubs this week, Bury St Edmunds, compete in this division. But before we get into our interview with Bury St Edmunds Director of Rugby, Jacob Ford, there seems to be only one place we can start our National 2 East segment this week, and that is at the home of Guernsey Raiders, Butts Lane, where Guernsey snatched a remarkable win over Barnes in round 6. Jack Holborn's late try clinching a 35-31 victory for Jordan Reynolds' side. 2 brilliant teams going at it last week, took it right the way down to the wire. But what we wanted to do on the show this week was just show you the winning moment with the sound on, because it sounded like an absolutely brilliant atmosphere at Foots Lane once that winning moment occurred for Guernsey Raiders. So just have a little listen to this. It really was another fabulous advert for National League Rugby. A massive credit to Guernsey and Barnes for putting on such a display in level 4 of the English game. But the win for Guernsey keeps them on the tails of league leaders Tunbridge Judeans as they made it 6 wins from 6 with a 39-31 victory at Havant. The perfect record continues for TJs, and they achieved that in front of an 800 strong crowd at Hucks Lane. So another healthy attendance for Havant, but the outcome was another win for Tunbridge Judeans. So what it means for the league table is that TJs do top the pile, as we've just mentioned. Guernsey are in second, with Dorking ticking along nicely in third position. Down at the bottom, Colchester boss Craig Burrows said after round 6's 10-7 defeat to Henley that it was the small margins, the little errors that were costing his side at the moment, and they needed to go back to the drawing board. That was a post that Colchester put out on their own Twitter account. So it sounds like things are not going the way of Colchester at the moment as they continue to search for their first win of the season since promotion to National 2 East. And the same can be said for Sevenoaks and Old Oxford Harlequins, who go into the penultimate weekend of October, still waiting for that first success, as are Worthing, who fought back well in round 6 but fell to a 31-27 loss at home to Old Albanian. So the bottom 4 sides still winless heading into round 7. And speaking of Worthing, they travel to Bury St Edmunds this weekend, with Bury being our featured club, or one of our featured clubs, on the National League Rugby preview show this week. Just in terms of Bury, then, they're currently 8th in the table, 3 wins and 3 defeats to their name, but they're slowly starting to find momentum. All 3 of the wins that we've just mentioned have come in the last 4 games, but it has been, or it was, a real summer of change for Bury St Edmunds, with around 23-24 new players arriving in Suffolk. And also, they struck up a new partnership with Championship outfit Doncaster Knights, and that has come from the relationship Director of Rugby Jacob Ford has with his brother Joe Ford, who is head coach of Doncaster. So we wanted to hear from Jacob about how things have settled in the first 6 weeks of the season for Bury St Edmunds. But before we go into our interview with Jacob, here is a short clip from the club themselves, just giving you a little bit of a taster about what Bury St Edmunds is all about.
We're under no illusions of where we are as a team. We understand, we've got a lot of development to go and a lot of areas to improve on. A new group of players coming together and, trying to excel in bringing that process along. That's going to take time, but yeah, it's definitely a unique challenge, one that I've never had before. And compared to my previous seasons at Bury, it's something that presented new challenges and new things for me to figure out, what we need to do and what direction we need to go in. So I think it was natural in terms of the changeover of players. Those players committed to the club for 3 years. We wish them all the best, and they've done a fantastic service to Bury, and we needed to figure out what direction we wanted to go in, what type of player we wanted to bring in. And I think every director of rugby in the National Leagues will agree how difficult it is to recruit at this level. It just is, the semi-professional element of it, everything that comes to moving a player to the area. It is difficult, but it's a great challenge at the same time. We're still having ups and downs in terms of player movement and stuff, which is normal. Hopefully the squad will be settled in the next month or so. But, these are challenges that I didn't foresee, but ultimately the ones that, you've got to adapt and overcome, not just myself, but as a management team, as a playing group, as a whole club, to be honest. So, we're definitely finding out what our strengths are and also what our weaknesses are as a new playing group. That's normal. So I think we'll be in a different place in, January. I truly do believe that, for better or the worse. I haven't quite figured it out yet. But, no, it's all good. I feel like the potential of this group's massive, which is brilliant.
You talked before, Jacob, about kind of the difficulties around recruiting players, especially when such a core group of players do move on. And so I guess when you have kind of the relationship and the partnership the club have struck up with Doncaster Knights, that is a real plus point for you. Obviously, the link between yourself and your brother Joe being head coach is an obvious one, but just tell us a little bit about how that's developed and how's that working, because I guess it just adds that little bit more extra when it comes to kind of bringing in players and players settling down at the club.
Yeah, I mean the Donny lads have been brilliant. Even when Doncaster's not around the corner, it's a couple of hours away. But yeah, I like them because those lads come down and they're very humble. They're keen to get better. They fit into the group, massively so in terms of the cultural side of it and the off-field stuff. So the travel, that they come and they stay down and stuff like that just shows the commitment to the rest of the playing group, that they're here because they want to see Bury succeed. They want to give the best for the club. That's incredibly important that they show that sacrifice, which is great. But also on the field, they're 100% committed. When you get a 100% committed player, that them are the ones you want to work with. It's been good in terms of adding a different dynamic and play to the group that we've probably not had before. Which is great, because then we can start to develop our game and how we want to do things a little bit differently. But ultimately, they're a high standard of player. They're hungry, they want to get better, and I think the way we've tried to do recruitment is trying to get a player in that wants to get better every session, every week, and ultimately drive standards. And they might not be the finished article, and they might not have per se the experience as a lot of players in the national leagues, but they have a lot of grit, they have a lot of fight, and they've got a lot of potential, which those are the types of players you want to work with. It's very difficult to recruit the experienced types of players because you've got to move them and the families and stuff to the area, which is difficult. So that's kind of how we've gone with it with our recruitment stuff, and it is exciting on one hand, but we might be exposed in others, but that's where we are as a team. And you've got to accept that, haven't you, to move forward and ultimately reach where you want to get to. I think where we want to go as a club is we want to maximise potential, and we want to exceed in not just the rugby side of it, but everything. Every area, every section of the club, on field and off field. And make sure that we're the best we can possibly be, whatever that is. And we've got a group of players now, and my job and the coach's job is to maximise that potential. Make sure at the end of the year that we've done that. That's incredibly important that we get that right. So, and wherever that takes us, that's where it takes us. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I was actually thinking about it at the weekend at Sevenoaks. Is a lot of the lads felt a lot of pressure, and I was like, there's no pressure here. Like, you know what I mean? I want you guys going out there because you enjoy playing rugby. That's first and foremost why you do it. You know what I mean? Yeah, there might be a benefit, with jobs, accommodation, and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, remember why you're here. When you enjoy it, when you relax, that's when you're going to play your best. And ultimately, that's what I want from the playing group. And I'm probably guilty of it sometimes, of being a little bit too professional or putting the pressure on. And actually, you got to understand that there's a lot of sacrifices at this level. Semi-professional. They've come from a long day at work. They've got families to go home to after training. A lot of lads travel to and from as well. Like, there's a lot of sacrifices made for them to play rugby, and it doesn't make sense for me that if they go and play the rugby at the weekend and they're not enjoying it, it doesn't add up. It don't win for anyone. So ultimately, that's what we want to create, and that's where we want to go as an environment. Not just across the first team, but across the whole club. He's like, let's get that bit right, and then hopefully the rest can follow after it. But that's the most important bit.
Obviously, the next step in that progress, Jacob, is Worthing at home. And then, I mean, like Sevenoaks last weekend when he played them, they're still searching for the first victory of the season. And I know they've kind of put in some much better performances against Barnes and at the weekend against Old Albanian. So does that make them even more of a dangerous opponent in a way when they come to your place on Saturday?
Genuinely, this year, I look at the table and the team. Like, everyone's dangerous. Like, I know it's easy to say that, but I look at a team and I always see what they're really good at. You know what I mean? And that's always a threat. You look at Worthing, they've got some good young players in there. Jack Forrest, he's really good on the ball, and Frank Taggart, you saw him playing last week as a coach. Like, the really good players who can cause you a lot of problems. And it's going to be a very difficult test. It's one where we've got to be at our best. But the more I've been in this environment, this space of National League Rugby the last 4 or 5 years, is that I've actually figured out, well, for me anyway, that the more you can focus on yourself and the more that you can make it about Bury St Edmunds and what we're good at, I think the better. And the reason I said that is because you don't have a lot of time. Like you're not in a professional environment where you've got 4 days a week and you can preview the opposition and stuff. I'm not saying we don't do that, but what I'm saying is I find it much more powerful to the group to say, yes, we're playing Worthing at the weekend at home. Yes, it's going to be a great occasion. We're back at home. We've played so many away games so far, but ultimately, this is what we're about. This is what we want to show. This is what our strengths are as a group, and if we get that right, our chances of success are higher. I think if you worry too much about the opposition and where you play, stuff like that, you can fall into a trap of forgetting what you're about and bringing the best out of you as a squad and a group, and ultimately individually as a player as well. So I know it's funny looking at it that way, but I do think that message resonates within the group, and it's something that everyone can buy into as well.
So a big thank you to Jacob for his time, and a massive thank you as well to Bury St Edmunds for all the help around the National League Rugby preview show this week. As Jacob touched on, he has been faced with challenges in the early parts of this season, but it sounds like Bury are starting to find their feet, and they'll be targeting a 4th win of the season this weekend when Worthing come to town. And as Bury outlined in their promotional video before our interview with Jacob, they are a proper community club with a strong senior men's programme, a thriving women's and mini and juniors section as well. And away from the rugby, they are a real hub of the community. So if you haven't already, why not pay Bury St Edmunds a visit during the course of this season? But why not start by visiting them this weekend when their first 15 take on Worthing in National 2 East? So let's take a look at the rest of the fixtures in this division for round 7 then. And we start with Barnes against Havant. Such heartbreak for Barnes last week at Guernsey, so they'll be eager for a reaction against Havant, who certainly made life uncomfortable for league leaders Tunbridge Julians last week. Worthing, as we know, they go to Bury St Edmunds searching for their first win of the season, and like Worthing, Sevenoaks will be doing the same when they visit Henley. 2 narrow defeats against Bury and Old Albanian in the last 2 weeks for Sevenoaks, so can they be on the right side of the result on Saturday? Old Albanian versus Guernsey should be a decent contest at Woolhams. 3 wins on the bounce for OAs, while Guernsey take on another side in the top half of the table. Another fixture which really stands out is Oxford Harlequins against Colchester, a meeting of the 2 newly promoted sides, but which one can get off the mark in round 7? And the big fixtures keep on coming, and it's another derby for Canterbury. They beat Westcombe Park 39-22 last time out, and they travelled to Kent rivals and table toppers Tunbridge Julians this week, who are looking to go 7 wins from 7. And lastly, Westcombe Park, who we've just mentioned there, they host Dorking, who have flown out of the blocks in the last couple of weeks or so and are now gunning for their 6th win in a row. So to mix things up again on the National League Rugby preview show, let's head into National 2 West now, where one of the stories of round 6 came down in Cornwall, where Redruth inflicted a first defeat of the season on Luctonians by claiming a 38-29 victory. Now, this was a brilliant contest at the Recreation Ground and was ultimately decided by debutant Will Wrigglesford, with his brace helping Nigel Hamley's side to a 3rd victory of the campaign. And that win for Redruth coincidentally allowed Camborne to move to the top of National 2 West, as they beat Hinckley 41-19, with Ben Priddy scoring a hat-trick, while Kyle Moyle and Josh Matavesi were excellent once again for the Cherry and Whites. But because obviously Luctonians lost via Redruth beating them and Camborne getting that win over Hingley, it means Redruth have done their near neighbours a favour, as Camborne now lead the way in National 2 West. And we'll come on to the table just in a minute or two, but we also wanted to highlight another game that took place in the Southwest in round 6, where Taunton winger Rocky Prowse really made a name for himself. The 18-year-old scored 5 tries in a huge 62-29 victory for the Titans over All Redcliffians, and it's now a 3rd win on the spin for Tony Apside. And after they came down from National 1, they seem to be struggling to find their feet in the early knockings of the season, but they're now gathering momentum, aren't they, with 3 straight wins for Taunton, helped by this emerging talent, Rocky Prowse. So let's have a look at the table then in National 2 West, and confirmation that Camborne are the new leaders of the division after that win over Hingley, and just 6 points separate the top 6 in this division. At the bottom, no change for Devonport Services, who lost 52-17 at home to Clifton in round 6. Despite the scoreline, this was another good first half showing for Devonport, but Clifton put their foot down in the second period to end a 3-game losing run. Straight into the fixtures then in National 2 West, and we start with league leaders Camborne, who were travelling to Bourneville. The hosts have struggled away from home this term, but they are on a run of 8 consecutive wins at Avery Field, so Camborne will be in for a test in the Midlands. Cinderford up against Redroof. Cinderford now up to 4th in the table, 4 straight wins for them, so confidence will be high when they take on a buoyant Redroof on Saturday. Clifton against Macclesfield. Clifton fresh from being back in the winners' lounge last week. Welcome Matt to Station Road. Macclesfield actually led with 6 minutes to go against Cinderford last time out before falling to a 24-19 defeat. So can the Blues bounce back in round 7? Hornets travel to Exeter University. Exeter University winning the battle of the universities last week against Loughborough students, edging it 28-26 in the end. It was an excellent result for them, and they are back at home to face an improving Hornets who've collected 12 points from their last 3 games. Hinkley versus Devonport Services sees the bottom 2 go head-to-head at Leicester Road. Hinkley aiming for back-to-back home wins in that one. Luctonians versus Taunton really does look and sound like a tasty contest at Mortimer Park. Lux aiming to respond after their first defeat of the season, while 5th place Taunton, as we said before, have a bit of momentum behind them at the moment. And Old Redcliffians will be looking to right the wrongs of round 6 when Dan Cox's side welcome Loughborough students to Scotland Lane. And last but not least, let's go into National 2 North. And before we go into our feature club and our interview with Sheffield this week, let's have a look back at round 6, where Harrogate opened their account for 2024-25. They obviously suffered relegation a couple of years ago, bounced straight back last season, and are now off the mark for this season thanks to a 22-16 win against Chester. National 2 North Player of the Week, Fred Shell, leading the way in that one. At the top of the table, there was late drama involving Lim, who just about kept their perfect record intact. Nathan Beasley's late hat-trick try sealing a 32-37 win away at Tynedale. And by the way, Tynedale's hooker, Ralph Johnston, scored 5 tries for the home side, but it wasn't enough for Tyne to claim their first win of the campaign. And it was Lim who were able to record a 6th victory from 6 matches. And Lim remain alongside Leeds Tykes as the only 2 clubs in National 2 North with a 100% record after Leeds kicked off round 6 last Friday night with a solid 33-12 victory against Wharfdale. So just confirmation then to look at the table now. Harrogate are up and running in National 2 North, with Tynedale and Sheffield's Tigers still waiting for their first successes. Tigers, by the way, were much improved in round 6, but were pipped 33-26 by Fylde at Dormoor. At the top, as we said, Leeds and Lim with a full haul of 30 points, with 3rd place Sheffield in behind the current top 2. And it is Sheffield, who are also 6 wins from 6, as you just saw, who are our featured club in National 2 North this week. They've had a fabulous start to the season yet again, and are really picked up from where they left off from after finishing 3rd last season. That was the highest the club have ever finished in this division, and especially with Leeds Tykes coming to Aberdale Park this weekend, where Sheffield haven't lost in over a year. We wanted to catch up with head coach Anthony Posa and assistant coach and first team captain Don Parsons to learn a little bit more about the upward trajectory Sheffield currently find themselves on.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful start to the season. Obviously, we've I think one of the strengths has been we've not taken anything for granted because of where we've come from. We've only been a National 2 club for a few years and only really solidified us place in this league last year. And I'm old enough to remember the ill-fated time we last went into Nat 2 and weren't successful. So I think there's plenty of lads that aren't taking things for granted.
When I came to the club and we were successful with promotion, I recognised the good work that predecessed me, and I took that and then wanted to evolve it, and we brought a whole new environment and a way we played and the attacking way we played. And I think it was a little bit frustrating on our first year because we had such a young team with the old heads, but we see the fruition of it now, and we've grown. And I think again I use that cliche, adapted, and we've got game plan A, game plan B, game plan C, and I think there's a clarity amongst all the players now. Even we've got the youngest 9 and 10 in the league, for example, and they've grown so much. And no, it's just it's the environment's great, and we just, as Dom said, we take nothing for granted. Each week is another test, but we sort of embrace that, and I think that's really healthy.
I know at the start, before we hit record, you said you've been on a much longer journey than just the last 12 months. But I think if Leeds Tykes and Rotherham hadn't had the ding-dong they did at the top of the table, you guys would have been the talk of the town in National 2 North a lot more. So can you give us a bit of an insight to how you were able to take the leap from, I think it was 10th in 2022-23 to finishing third, and a really, really respectable third at that as well?
It's easier said than done, but I call it a mindset change. I think in the first year we all admit was about learning how to play and what we were trying to do, and as Don mentioned, the environment we're in, but it was about surviving, and we changed that mindset to being we want to look up and not down. And we went on that streak where we created that sort of the winning streak that we did, and became a habit winning, and we pushed each other, and training replicated that, and like I said, it's just about again, I apologise for the so-called cliche, but it's true. We just focus week on week, and probably me that looks a little bit further, but the players they enjoy coming to training. They enjoy testing themselves. They enjoy, we're creating all sorts of records at the club, and we're looking to create new records, and we're just striving to be better. And yeah, it sounds like words, but it's not words. It's actions.
I've been really blessed to be on an incredible journey with Sheffield, and when I came here 10 years ago, actually, it was my 10-year anniversary, I was told by our Stato, Andy Reichwold, the day of the Otley game at home. And 10 years ago, I could have never imagined the kind of career, I suppose, that I'd have with Sheffield, and the amount it would mean to me in such a big period of my life. And it's such a proud feeling to take to the field with boys that I've known for a long time and that I love to bits. I think first and foremost, that's why we all play rugby. But secondly, to be taken to a field playing the kind of rugby that we're playing at the moment, I think that was something that 10 years ago when I first joined and we were in North East 1, that was a pipe dream, for Sheffield, for the club. And you can feel that around not just the players in the team, not just us as coaches, but when we come off the pitch and the guys that turn out to support us every week, they're clearly having that wonderful feeling as well, because they've been around the club a lot longer than us.
Certainly from my perspective, reporting on National 2 North, the home form for Sheffield over the last year has been really, really key as well. So, I mean, a question for both of you, really going into such a big game at the weekend against Leeds Tykes. Every time you arrive at Aberdale Park, does it kind of bring a bit of confidence knowing that you've been such a difficult team to beat there since last October?
I think from my point of view, we speak a lot as players about having that little bit of fear as well. I know fear is not a word we use a lot in rugby, but we've talked quite a lot over the course of the season about that fear of letting ourselves down. We try not to listen too much to the external noise, but there's definitely a pressure and a fear from us as players that we go out on this field and we've got a responsibility to perform. Every time we get that jersey, and especially every time we're in that jersey on this pitch. And I think that's just become something that doesn't really even need to be said anymore.
Like I said, I mentioned this before, we had clarity, we got the ability to adapt, we've got the ability to change game plans, but we're under no illusion of what's coming this week, and we just want to give the best version of ourselves. That's the key here. Last year was like 80 points in both games, it was just crazy. If you're a defence coach, you probably don't want to watch. But, it was brilliant. Both games were brilliant. They're a quality team. They've got obviously the two universities and quality players. We know it's going to be a massive test. But like I said, it's about getting us right this week, on the big stage, and that's what we're after. And I'd like to think, and I'm pretty sure we're a better version of ourselves. The new guys that have come in, and there's not been many, but they've added some real quality. We got some touch wood. We got some quality coming back this week that didn't play against Hull. It's just about us giving the best version of ourselves. And if we do that, there's going to be one humdinger of a game.
Of the two games, in a way, they didn't kind of reflect the evolution of us over the season. In the first game, I think we were still, that hangover from that 22-23 season that you spoke about, where we were still probably giving opposition sides a bit too much respect. It was Leeds coming down the road, and that was a kind of big thing. And then we obviously went to Headingley that last game of the season. We didn't do what we knew we could do in the first half. We weren't quite there for whatever reason. And then we showed a much better version of ourselves in that second half. I think for us this weekend, the focus is on showing that version of ourselves through 80 minutes.
We've earned the right to make it a top of the table clash. So let's do it justice. Like I said, I've got nothing but compliments for the Leeds side that they've assembled. But we're a team, and we've built a team hard, and we'll go as a team. And we can't wait. We just can't wait.
Obviously, we talked about the excitement around the club, feel-good factor at the moment, but I know you wanted to give a shout-out, didn't you, for your team manager who's not been particularly well at the moment, so we can kind of end on that message if you'd like.
Yeah, with John Shaw's legend of the club. He's just going through a tough period at the moment, and we just want to send our best to him and get back soon, buddy.
So big thanks to Anthony and Dom for their time on the show this week. And we echo Anthony's thoughts and send our best wishes to Sheffield's team manager, John Shaw. And I know the club are probably making him extremely proud at the moment, given they are third in the league and 6 wins from 6. And this weekend, they welcome a hugely talented Leeds Tykes side to Aberdale Park. So can Leeds become the first side to beat Sheffield away from home since Rotherham did it last October? We'll have to wait and see. But what we do know is it's going to be an absolute cracker in Yorkshire on Saturday. So if you are in and around the Sheffield area, we'd highly recommend the trip to Aberdale Park. And that is just one of 7 brilliant games in National 2 North in round 7. So let's have a look at the rest of the fixtures then. Tyndale will be aiming to take the recent positives from a draw with Preston Grasshoppers and running Lynn extremely close last week into their clash with 11th place Chester on Saturday as Tyne go in search of their first win. It's 3 victories in a row now for Fylde, 2 of which have come on the road, but the 4th place side return to Woodlands on Saturday to face Harrogate. Hull Ionians versus Sheffield Tigers. As we said before, the Tigers would have been pleased with the better performance they put in against Fylde in round 6. They go to Hull Ionians aiming to get off the mark on Saturday. Lim take on Otley after their late heroics last week. In terms of Otley, they saw off Preston 45-22 last time out, despite a red card in the second half. But can the visitors end Lim's perfect start? Preston Grasshoppers versus Hull, the visitors in this one lost late on against Sheffield in round 6, but 3 really strong showings for Hull in recent weeks make them a challenge for Preston at Lightfoot Green on Saturday. Sheffield versus Leeds is such a standout fixture, isn't it? And could it be a standout result for Leeds if they do come away from Aberdale Park victorious? And Billingham bounced back last week from successive defeats by beating Hull Ionians 27-12, and they go to a Wharfdale side aiming to halt a run of 3 straight losses. So we hope all of that and the rest of our preview of National 1 and National 2 has got you excited for this weekend, because that is it on the National League Rugby Preview Show for this week. If you do like what we're doing here at National League Rugby, please like our videos, please share our content here on YouTube as well as on our social media channels, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. It is quick and easy to do, and it is also free to do, which is the most important thing, and your support is very, very much appreciated. Also this week, if you do fancy it, why not comment on this video below or any of the other videos that are coming out on National League Rugby's YouTube channel this week with some of your predictions for this week's games. It's an idea I've been thinking about for the last couple of weeks, an idea we've come up with over the last couple of weeks potentially, just to see how it goes. So if you do fancy predicting some of the games this week, comment in the video below, and if it does gather a bit of momentum and a bit of pace, we'll maybe even get a mini leaderboard going each week. But let's just see how that one goes. Anyway, do follow us on social media, and also check out our website for the latest reviews, previews, and also National League Rugby's website is the quickest way to find out all of the results from National 1 and National 2 on a Saturday afternoon. There is absolutely no point going anywhere else to find out who has done what across levels 3 and 4 of the English game. So do check out our website come 5 p.m. on Saturday afternoon to find out all the latest results in National 1 and National 2. And for more National League Rugby content, as well as content from around the rugby world, don't forget to check out talkingrugbyunion.co.uk. But thank you so much for joining us again this week. Thank you so much for your continued support, and enjoy the National League Rugby weekend.